If you aren't struggling, you aren't really learning. Ask 100 polyglots, academics, English teachers, coaches. They will all say the same. And that's what today's video is about. Because what exactly is the greatest contributor to your fluency and improving your English? And that's the number of hours you invest in learning the language. But learning the language in a way that actually helps you. So if I told you to watch a movie without subtitles, or to watch a short video on the way pigeons live in our cities, or for example, if you needed to read 500 pages of fiction, or listen to a pop song in US English, you might have already created some emotions around these things, and that emotion will determine, and also your decisions on them will determine whether you do them or not. But that's one of the things we have to learn how to do. If you let your emotions dictate what you do and what you don't do, you are not going to learn efficiently. Hey English learners, welcome to my channel. My name is Chubby. I'm an English coach. Welcome to my channel for English learners who want to learn how to make vocabulary more memorable and to speak English more fluently, comfortably, and confidently in any situation with the help of listening and spoken communication. And today we'll be looking deep into what learning is and what prevents you from learning, what helps you to learn more. So if you're interested in that, then keep on watching. And if you have any questions, because we might geek out a little bit on language learning itself, feel free to leave your comments and I'll be sure to come back and reply to them. We know that the way we learn is by experiencing it, because imagine how you learn to cook, how you learn to drive a car. If you want to look at another one of my videos on this, feel free to watch it as well. So if you have a look at how we decide whether we do things or not, it's probably going to be emotions. Because if you need to watch a movie without subtitles, you know that it's going to be difficult. It's going to be a struggle to understand the dialogues, because part of you might also think that you need to understand everything. This is something we're going to talk about and how to deal with these emotions as well. So if you look at what most people do when they switch off the subtitles, they start watching the movie, maybe 5-10 minutes in, they start feeling frustrated, angry. They feel this urge to turn on the subtitles because a voice in their head keeps telling them, you don't know enough. You are not good enough to have this, like to watch this movie. Your English is not good enough for you to understand. You need to understand everything. Otherwise, you're a failure, you're stupid, which we obviously know is not true, because you're a second language learner. You're learning a language. So we need to understand that struggle, feeling that you have to make an effort, feeling that something is a bit challenging, something that makes you a bit uncomfortable, something that makes you feel a little bit uncomfortable, is actually helping you. And that moment when you start feeling the struggle, when it becomes a little bit of an effort, is going to be crucial for you to make the right decisions, for you to keep improving the skills you need to improve. Because what's the point of improving something we are already good at? We need to work on something that we are not so good at yet. It's called deliberate practice. And if you look at some of the top athletes, they always try to work on this as well, getting better at what we are already good at, but also making sure that we push ourselves to the limits and make it a little bit uncomfortable and challenging, because we want to build skills we are not so good at yet. And if you think about it in the past, when you had a new phone that you had to understand how it works, or you just had to maybe live in a new city. In the beginning, it was a struggle. You kept looking for different things. You kind of forgot things as well. Part of you also tried to use the phone or go around the city the way you did it before, where you used to live, for example. So of course, it's a question of habit. The same thing is going to be true for learning English as well. So whenever there is a struggle there, make sure that the point is not just to focus on everything, because your brain is going to try to tell you that all the time. I'm going to tell you how to deal with that at the end of this video. The biggest reason why listening is so difficult is because there is information coming in, something that you're listening to, and it's not just other noises around you, maybe your parents watching the latest episode of a Turkish soap opera, or somebody cutting wood behind you as well. You've got to focus on the thing you're listening to, but at the same time there's information coming in and your brain needs to understand which of these words are actually being said. And then there's a second process, which is when your brain makes sense of the message, of the sequence of words that it's hearing. And that's why it takes a long time, and that's why it takes a lot of struggle and difficulty and challenging moments that you need to go through, you need to say yes to, in order for you to build your listening skills. And that listening skill will also eventually help you speak better. I'm talking from experience because this is exactly what I did back in my teens, when I was just listening and listening and listening to a lot of things. Even though I didn't understand everything, I went through the struggle, the difficulties for me to build my listening skills that eventually also built my communication skills as well, to an extent. And I'm not just speaking from my own experience, I'm also speaking from the experience of my best and most successful students who make progress because they learn how struggle is going to help them learn so much more than if they just stay in their comfort zone forever. When you embrace that struggle, you're going to feel so much freer. You're going to feel that you're making progress that will eventually motivate you to do more as well. You're also going to be able to change the way you do things, so you finally see more progress. Now let's see how this all works in your brain, because imagine that English is a huge jungle with lots of trees there and danger and snakes and tigers and everything, but there is no path. That's exactly the same in your brain when you start learning English. Learning is about making and then strengthening pathways between your nerve cells inside your brain. So when you're learning English, it's like walking into that jungle where there's no pathway. You've got your machete that you could use to cut a sort of path, but it's going to be kind of messy, right? So you just have to go through, you just have to go and keep going and keep doing the things you need to do to improve your listening skills or your speaking skills or any other skills that help you become more fluent. But at the beginning, you're going to struggle. It's going to take a long time to go through them. Some people give up, they leave the jungle. And when people leave the jungle, it's like neglecting your studies for months, for years. That pathway is going to start growing in. So it's going to be harder to cut that path with your machete again. You know that your brain keeps growing and improving. So if you keep telling yourself that you just don't have the brain to build certain skills, you're not only lying to yourself, but you're also undermining your ability to learn and also cutting yourself away from all the incredible, limitless potential that you have to become a fluent speaker of English and a global citizen. So when you already started working on those skills, instead of going back and letting that jungle grow, just keep going and keep working on making that path. And first, it's going to be a dirt road. But then the more you practice, the more you listen to something, the more you struggle, the more difficulty you overcome by also dealing with your emotions and all the emotions coming up, the more you will be able to improve that skill and the clearer that road will be. And the more you expose yourself to opportunities when you can improve those skills, the more connections your brain cells are going to make. It's like having a path that was first a dirt road that turned into a paved road and then turned into a highway because you've practiced it so much that it became automatic. And that's our second thing we need to talk about. Your brain is incredibly good at automatizing. Like, did you notice how you move your tongue or what you're doing when you're watching this video? Probably you don't, because those are all automatic things your brain is doing. So your goal with fluency should also be automaticity. I'm speaking to you without thinking much about what I should say to you in the camera, because all the words, expressions, sentences, grammar, everything else has been automatized throughout the years of learning English. And it's not going to be in 1 or 2 years' time. That fluency takes time. So be patient. Most importantly, be patient with yourself. Reaching automaticity is also the reason you need to expose yourself to something that's a bit challenging. You're telling your brain that this is something new, this is something I don't have experience with, that I don't know yet, that's something I want to improve, so that your brain knows when you repeat it, it will be better at it. This is exactly why you don't need to think when you're doing difficult things now that used to be difficult in the past. There was a time when you couldn't even lift a spoon or didn't know how to use chopsticks because you were struggling. You needed to create those neural pathways in your brain, and that's exactly what's going to happen with your fluency as well, as long as you're ready to say yes to the uncomfortable, the challenges, and all the effort you need to make to reach your goal. Automaticity is all stored in your long-term memory. The things you can already understand without much effort are already automatized. So you've got to focus on what the brain is really good at. And the brain, your brain, is really good at noticing patterns, noticing expressions. This is why you don't have to say all the present simple sentences that are possible to make in the world, because after a while your brain will make sense of the system, that when you say he, she, or it, or a person's name, it will naturally add a little s after it. But it's again something that takes time. So automatizing phrases, expressions, instead of focusing on individual words is going to be your number one priority when it comes to language learning. Never try to learn an individual word. Try to have a look at how it's used in context. If you don't know exactly how to do this and how to learn from context, I got these 2 videos for you that will explain to you in detail how it should be done, and how focusing on words and a list of words is literally the worst way you could improve your fluency. Every skill that you feel weak at can be improved. And one of these skills that you can start improving is your attention. And unfortunately, social media isn't going to help you much with your focus eventually, because there is no learning happening if you're not paying attention. When you pay attention to a text instead of slurping your favorite drink and checking your latest notifications on your smartwatch, or simply speaking to someone else while reading that one page that you dedicated time to, is going to be more of a pretending to learn kind of addition to your language learning journey, and then you will feel frustrated weeks and months later that you don't have the results that all the hard work you put in resulted in. So make sure when it's hard work, when it's 10 minutes, 15 minutes, or 30 minutes of getting into the habit of exposing yourself to a tiny bit of challenge and a little bit of struggle, is going to be something where you fully pay attention. For example, if you're watching a movie, you need to decide whether you're watching this for the sake of entertainment. Then you're not going to pay much attention to the language being used. And then what's the point of watching that in a foreign language? You could watch the movie in your first language and have fun. So if you dedicate time to learn from a movie, you need to pay closer attention. So you've got to pay a bit more attention to what you're watching, whatever you need to improve. So think of, I need to improve my vocabulary, okay, before sitting down and watching 5, 10, 15 minutes of this movie, of this episode without subtitles. I also want to try to pay attention to vocabulary. Let's say I want to learn 1, 3 expressions, 5 idioms. I want to see how people communicate in some of those dialogues, and then maybe write down 3 sentences from one movie. So I have a written record of what I learned throughout the 10 minutes that I exposed myself to a little bit of uncomfort. This is exactly the way I became more fluent in English, and that's why I don't have to think whenever I'm speaking to you into the camera. If you still don't agree with me, that's fine. I'm just stating a fact that has been scientifically proven, and if you look at any polyglot language learner, fluent language speaker, they will all tell you that you've got to put in the work and expose yourself to something that's a bit uncomfortable and a bit challenging for you to build the skills you're not so good at. So make sure you embrace those struggles by listening to what you're telling yourself. Like if you focus on, I've got to understand everything, there might be part of you that still wants to understand everything and will get really frustrated when after 5 minutes you kind of lose track of everything. So choose material that is a bit above your level. Make sure you don't watch a drama with an accent that you've never heard of the first time you're learning English, for example. Also, practice mindfulness. Become aware of your emotions, because your emotions also influence your actions. When you take action because of an emotion, you're never going to embrace the struggle, right? So it's important for us to say, I don't feel like it, it's too difficult, but I'm going to do it because I want to see the bigger picture. And that's another thing you need to be careful with. Your brain always wants to focus on what I need now, but you're smart and intelligent and you want to reach fluency. And we both know it's going to take a lot of time. So focusing on what this 5 minute, 10 minute, 15, 30 minute of effort is going to help me with, and how it's going to pay off in the long term. So make sure that you start believing in yourself as a global citizen, someone who deserves to be a second language speaker of English, who deserves to be a fluent speaker of English, who can walk into any conversation, talk about any topic, as long as you put in the work and you are learning how to overcome any struggle, difficulty, challenge, or uncomfortable situation, because that's going to be part of your journey. If you need any help with that, send me an email. If you're struggling with your emotions, overcoming some of your struggles, anxieties, I'm always there to reply with a couple of sentences. You could also join my free masterclass that contains a bunch of videos about what it means to learn English for fluency as opposed to studying English in school. That will help you a lot and will be a game changer for you to start your journey and fast track your progress towards fluency. Let me know in the comments what you learned, what's your biggest takeaway from this. You can also follow me on some of my other socials and ask any of your questions. Don't be a stranger. I'm always here to empower you, encourage you, inspire you, and educate you on how to become a successful, fluent English speaker. Thank you so much for watching it. I appreciate you. Hope to see you soon in another video. And when you, because you've practiced phrases, I've got these two videos. Record a written, what's the word? So I have a written record. Your other job is,